Thanks. I was going to say you should wait to clap till after. You might not want to clap. Thanks for the nice introduction, Win. So, as Win mentioned, I run a little group, social-engineer.org. It's a site that I developed about 3 years ago, based around a framework for social engineering. So if you haven't heard about it, you could check it out, social-engineer.org. That's really where the idea for the book came from. When I was doing research on social engineering, that was my job in the pen test group that I was part of at that time, realized quickly that there wasn't much information on the web about SE. Many of you in the security field, you probably realized that too. 3 or 4 years ago, if you typed in social engineering and Googled, what did you get? It was how to get free hamburgers, how to get chicks, or something about Kevin Mitnick, and that was the only one that had anything to do with social engineering, right? It was the third one. So if you were doing research on that, trying to use it in your security groups, trying to test your companies with it, it was almost impossible to find anything good on it. So we wrote a framework for social engineering. We based it off of the psychology behind what makes up social engineering. We based it off of our own personal experiences, and then we got a lot of community help. People came from all over the world and helped us write different parts of the framework, and that really was the basis for the book, basis for the podcast that's out there, newsletter, and things like that. So before we can actually talk about social engineering, I'd like to define it. My definition of social engineering is any act that influences a person to take an action that may or may not be in their best interest. I define it very broad and general. I do so because I think social engineering is not always malicious. Sometimes it's positive. And how many of us here, don't raise your hand, how many of us here have kids, right? Kids, they're the greatest social engineers on earth. That's not necessarily malicious. Your doctors, your priest, your therapist, all these people, they're social engineers because they're influencing you to take an action that you may not want to take at first. And that influence it alters your life, it alters your thinking, it alters your frame. But now in this context, in a conference like this, we're talking about the malicious forms of social engineering. Now, many of you who are hardware or network defense and attack guys may say, well, why is this important? I mean, it's the same thing, isn't it? We've been using this kind of stuff for 6,000 years of human history. Why do we need to care about it? Well, last year, how many of these companies were totally breached? Every single one of them. And what was interesting about this, there was an article in, I think it was Network World. One of the members of Anonymous, a female member, had left. Her nickname was Sparky Blaze. When she left the group, she was interviewed, and she said that she believes social engineering was the biggest threat to security in these companies. Why? In that article, she mentioned that every attack that they launched included social engineering. Now, that's a pretty hefty statement. We started to actually look into that, started to interview people. We met, unfortunately, we met a few of these anonymous guys at DEF CON last year, and we started talking to them, asking them, how did you use social engineering? How did you alter people's frames when it came to SE in these attacks you did? We found out that phone elicitation and phishing emails were two of the biggest ways that hacktivist groups were using social engineering to alter their companies, to integrate to these companies. You ever hear of the APWG? If you haven't, that's a great website, apwg.org. If you're running a security awareness for your company, that's a wonderful website to visit. It stands for the Anti-Phishing Workgroup. What they do is they compile phishing emails from around the globe, and they then write these reports once a quarter that indicate what the largest sectors of business that are being hit by phishing. They also in these reports indicate what type of phishing emails are the most effective, what's being used where and how. Well, this one's a little old, but basically this report shows that the financial sector and the payment services sectors are the most heavily affected when it comes to phishing. Now, you want a great example of this. I'm not sure what the equivalent is here in Europe, but in the USA we have an organization called the IRS. It's one of our favorite organizations because they take our tax money, so we hate them all. But they did a pen test about 3 years ago, and the people who handle the social security numbers, so those are the people who handle the money, those who are out in the outside world had to be tested. They did a simple social engineering test. Here's how it went. Somebody called on the phone. They said, hi, I'm Paul calling from the tech support team. We're doing a security upgrade on your passwords. Do you know how to change your password? The person on the other end of the phone, yes, I do. Okay, great. Can you open up your password change box and enter in this new secure password, password 123? If you do that, click OK, exit out of that box, you're now secure. Thank you. You want to guess how many people did that? 67%. 67% of the IRS agents called did that and changed their passwords. If that doesn't scare you, then I don't know what will. And that kind of a statistic is not alone, and that's U.S. government. God bless America. Anyhow, Dimitri, the ex-threat advisor for McAfee, he made this very, very bold statement in an interview. He was the vice president of threat research, and he said that he believes every company has been or will be breached in the near future. Now, I used to argue this point a little bit about a year or maybe 18 months ago and say, really, every company? And then as you started to see these things fall, what was it, just this week? What's the group, Ugnazi, released that list of FBI email addresses and passwords? Do you know how they got them? Spear phishing. That's how they got it. They basically set up a fake login page for federal government employees, sent them a spear phishing email, say click here, log in, and they have hundreds of FBI agents that logged in with their passwords and their email addresses, all from spear phishing. That's on Pastebin if you're interested in seeing that. So what we're trying to do today is talk a little bit about the common methods of social engineering, give you some examples on how it's working in the world today, and then maybe we can, we only have 45 minutes, I think, right? 45? Someone either gives me a thumb up. Okay, when I get late, Wynn will kick me off stage. So we're talking about the common methods of social engineering, being phishing, phone elicitation, and tailgating. These are the three most common ways that social engineers are infiltrating our companies, your companies, the companies that have been hacked. These are the three most common ways. So let's first talk about phishing. Consumer Reports projects over $2 billion lost to phishing scam. Now, personally, I think that number's low. I think it's low with the new reports that have come out, but it's still a staggering number. That's $2 billion U.S. that are lost to phishing scams. Symantec said that 1 in every 343 emails is a phish. Now, how many of us get 100 or more emails a day? Only a few. Okay, no, okay, quite a few hands. How many of us get 200 or more emails? Is that more? No, 1, 2, okay, a few. How many of us get 50 plus emails a day? 50 plus, okay, so now there's a majority of the group. So if you're getting 50 plus emails a day, think about it, in a 5-day work week, you're getting at least one phishing email a week. That's 52 phishing emails on statistical average, 52 phishing emails a year. That's a scary thought, right? So that means you have 52 chances to be scammed, hacked, or have your company hacked because of that. 294 billion emails are sent every day throughout the world. So I can't do the math in my head, but if you figure that out, there's a huge percentage of phishing emails that are out there. Some common things we might see are emails like, I just passed this one. Let me back up a little. There we are. Okay, so I think this is more of an American phish, but they have similar ones. The first talk that the gentleman that was showing you, your computer's been infiltrated by child porn, that's a very popular one in America right now. People that kind of ransomware type of thought process is actually very effective. They actually get infiltrated, they get propagated through this type of an email. This is what's called NACHA. So if you do wire transfers, which is part of your business, you'll get an email that says some of your wire transfers didn't successfully go through. And then you click on this link to fix the problem, to find out which ones didn't go through, to get the report, however they word it, and it's done this way. Another great one, this Amazon one. I hate to say the word love because it's so malicious, but really some thought went into this. So they go to your Amazon page and you have a wish list, right? Your wife, your kids, you have a wish list. You go there and you say, this is the things that I want. Well, guess what they do? There's a sale on all the items in your wish list, and they're 50% off. And you get this coupon in the mail, and all you have to do is click this link and go, and you're getting that coupon. Great phishing scam. Another one, which based on fear, which is this one right here that I actually got in my mailbox, was saying that something was ordered using my credit card on my Amazon account, and the shipment will be coming, and here's the tracking number if you want to ship the package. It looks innocent enough, it looks real, but a lot of these things, the back end are either Trojans or they're data collection scripts. Another great one, social media. We talk about this a lot. This Facebook, you've probably seen hundreds like this there. This is just identifying how we know it's a fish, but this one, they look so real. You know, gone are the days where it was bad grammar and spelling in a phishing email. Remember those days when you got things and it was really easy because it sounded like the person didn't speak your language at all? You know, it was like a 4-year-old wrote it. Those days are gone. You know, they're using spell check now. So the hackers got smarter. So they're using spell check, and these things are no longer really, really bad looking. I got one, if you might have seen this, from your favorite airline, maybe Delta or whatever airline you fly here, Air France, and it says, your ticket, your upcoming flight has been changed according to your specifications. Your credit card has been charged. Click here for your new itinerary. And in the bottom of the email, this is what's so wonderful about it, it had an ad for a MasterCard. And if you clicked it, it actually went to MasterCard.com. It was like a real ad for MasterCard. So they're actually placing real ads now in their phishing emails to add legitimacy to the fish. It's ridiculous they take that much time, but you think about the reason why. Right? 1 out of 52 for those of us getting 50 emails a day. So you're going to get one phishing email per week on average, maybe more. So if you're getting one or more per week, then the chances of infiltration are high. Phone elicitation scams. This is a really scary one. So the IC3 reports a 33% increase in phone elicitation scams. You know, let's talk about a couple examples of how this worked. This one is particularly malicious, and I'm not sure if it happened here in France. But you'll understand the maliciousness of this when I tell you. So the earthquake in Haiti and the tsunami in Japan, 9/11, these big events that happened. Right after I'm going to use the one in Japan, the tsunami in Japan, because this really was just recent, and it was very effective in the way it worked in America. So they call, they have a charity. No, let's back up. They actually do something first. So they have a website. Within 8 hours of the tsunami, there was websites launched on the web that said, we can help you find people that you think may have died or been hurt or lost in the tsunami. They claimed to have access to databases that were military only or government only, and that they can help you find your loved ones. And they didn't want money. All they wanted was your full name, your date of birth, your address, your phone number, your email. Then they wanted the full name and date of birth of the person you were looking for. So it looked legitimate. All looked SSL, nice little lock in the bottom, sticker that said hacker proof, so it must be secure, right? And you fill out this information, and they say, give us 3 to 4 days to get back to you with our findings. Well, the next day, you get a call from a charity, you know, the Japan Relief Fund. And the woman on the phone, they always use women because it's psychologically proven that guys and women like the sound of a woman's voice better. So they use a woman, she calls, and you're all laughing, but that is the truth. It really is. Think about it, whether you hear me or a woman speaking, you know? Yeah, you see, that's the problem. So the woman's on the phone, and she's saying that she's part of this Japan Relief Fund. The reason she joined is she just lost, enter relationship here. So you lost your brother, she lost her brother. So whatever it is that you lost according to the website, she also lost a brother. If your parents are there, then her parents were visiting Japan when the tsunami hit, and she joined this relief fund. Whatever relationship you had, she has the same relationship, and that's why she's part of this relief fund. They're not looking for large donations. $25, $30, $40, $50 is all they need. But here's the catch. The relief had to be set up so fast they can't take credit cards. All they can take is checks over the phone. Now, you feel, right? The emotions are there. She lost her parents, you lost your parents. $50 may be all that's needed in order to help people not lose more, to get the relief over to Japan that's needed. So you give them the checking account. Routing number, check number. Now, I don't know about in Europe, but in America, the routing number, or what's called the ABA number, there's free databases online. I can type in your ABA number, and it tells me what bank you use. That's free, and that's legitimate. It's legal because we want to, as we do business, and I put your routing number in my systems, it needs to know what bank to route your money to if I'm paying you through wire transfer. So this is legitimate. So I put your routing number, and I see you deal with Bank of America, the North Carolina branch right there. Well, guess what? Day 3, I give you a call. I'm from Bank of America. Now, hey, this is Larry. I'm from Bank of America. I just got a notice on your account that you submitted a payment for Japanese Relief Fund. Is that true? Yes, it is. Oh, well, okay, well, there's a lot of scams going on. So what we've been doing for our customers, because we really care about security, is to call each one of them and verify some information to make sure you wanted that check to go through. Oh yeah, I did. I wanted it to go through. This just $50. Please put the payment through. Okay, well, just verify one thing for me. What's your social security number? And they give them the social security number. Now you think about it, in 3 days, they have your full name, your date of birth, your address, your phone number, your email address, your banking account number, your routing number, and your social security number. Identity theft complete. You know why it didn't make the major news? Because it was only maybe a couple thousand people that got hacked that method. So it didn't make major news stations because it wasn't that big. When you got Sony with like 200 million passwords getting leaked, you know, it didn't seem that big of news. These are the kind of phone elicitation scams that are happening every day. And the social engineers are getting more and more malicious. They're less caring about what's happening in the world, and their only goal is to get your money from you. And you know, normally what they're doing, after they have your routing number and your social security number, they may not take your, you know, people automatically think, oh, they're going to clean my account. They may not do that. What they do is open up lines of credit in your name because they have all your information. Basically, they'll ruin your credit with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars of lines of credit, either in credit cards or loans, and you're left to pay the bill. So very, very malicious ways of social engineering. And the third method is tailgating or impersonation. The WHMCS, that ring a bell with anybody? No? Okay, so this just happened May 22nd. So it's only about a month ago. There's a company called WHMCS. They make an online billing program. So it's like a web page that you can buy as a company, and it does invoicing and billing for your company. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of customers with all of their data, credit cards, phone numbers, every type of information in this online billing system. The group, again, Nazi, wanted to infiltrate this website. How did they do it? They go online, they find out the database administrator's name, Paul, and he has a social media site. And on the social media site, he blogs about everything. What he ate for lunch, where he goes, what his kids look like, his vacations. Anything on earth is on his social media site. They build a profile on him. They then call the WHMCS database tech support line and say, hey, I forgot my password. Can you reset it? This is Paul. They say, sure, just answer your security question. What's the name of your dog? Oh, it's Fluffy123. There, done. Password changed. That was it. Literally, that was the whole hack. No serious sitting down and coding for 65 hours. No breaking through the IDS and firewalls. It was one phone call resetting the password because they knew the security question, the answer to the security question. How scary is that? And they were then able to dump 1.7 gigs of credit card numbers, and then, for good measure, they erased the servers afterwards. Yeah, so after they did all that, they said, well, you need to be punished, and they deleted and formatted the servers. Unfortunately, I think the company had a backup, but it was a month old. Imagine the cost of that craziness, all from impersonation and being able to impersonate or, in essence, cyberly tailgate into a company. So these kinds of things, I know we talk about these a lot. These are kind of goofy pictures, but unfortunately they still work. You know, how easy is it to obtain a UPS uniform? I don't know about over here in America. They have companies that make them, like for Halloween. You can just buy yourself a UPS uniform or even something similar. The waste management, whatever companies you have for waste management here, those are great outfits. You know, the greatest tool of a social engineer is a clipboard. A clipboard is better than a gun, because if you have a clipboard, you're official. And if someone walks up to you with like a vest and a clipboard on, and they tell you to stand there or park your car, you just listen. You don't argue. Clipboard means authorities for some reason in our minds. So people use these little tiny devices to infiltrate your companies. What's the goals then of a social engineer? Well, there's usually three. And we talked about some examples, but it's either data, or to persuade or elicit, or your passwords and access to your servers. These three things are the common goals that social engineering have. So first, let's talk about data. Of course, it's not the data that's in the picture there, but this is an interesting report from the U.S. This is a U.S. cost of data breach. It says that now the 7.2 million U.S. per breach event. Now, from what I heard before, that's like, what, 50 euros? But it's still expensive to us. I was just kidding. That was a bad joke, but no, it's a lot of money if you think about it. $7.2 million per breach event, because each record now is valued at $214 per record. So if you try to do the math, you think that means each breach event that's occurring is occurring in thousands, tens of thousands, or millions of records each. So this is a huge, this is from March 8th, 2012. So it's very recent that this report came out. So we can see that every year that seems to go up. I think last year it was 190 something. That was the average cost of the record. This year now it's up to 214. Persuasion or elicitation is another goal of the social engineer. A lot of times when it comes to phone elicitation, this is unpublished, and I guarantee you that if you ask Sony, they will deny that this is the truth. But this is the way that the Sony hack occurred. It was 6 phone calls from anonymous, 6 phone calls. They basically had some of the SQL string that was needed to dump the databases. They called Sony tech support, acting as if they were tech support, and they asked them, I just need a little help with this, I'm missing this little piece. They didn't ask for the whole thing. They asked for this little tiny piece. They got that much. Then the next day someone else called and they said, oh, we have this, now we need this little piece. And through 6 days they built this SQL string by asking certain questions. After the 6th day they had the full string. They were able to dump Sony's databases. And we know the results of that. Obviously, that's nothing new to us. And then, of course, when we talk about elicitation, a lot of times what we try to focus on is how to protect from human nature versus what the hackers want. So now, since we're all security enthusiasts, we're security professionals, this is what we do for a living, we're probably not the normal, I don't want to say normal human, because we're probably normal humans, right? But we're not the normal person. We don't think of the world in the same exact way. But still, this is good information, because in human nature, we want to trust people. We want to believe that people are honest and good. That's a natural thing. We want to believe that most of us are telling the truth all the time and that people aren't naturally lying. Not telling you to think opposite, because of course I don't want a bunch of paranoid people running around, but we should never really talk openly about our companies, the problems that we experience in the companies, or the problems that we have with other employees, or weaknesses of colleagues or our bosses. Those kinds of things, believe it or not, in the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security from the US, they have a whole training course, if you can believe this. It's like 3 days on elicitation, and this is one of the main sections. People get disgruntled. I know you don't have this cell phone company here, but AT&T, there's a whole website in America called AT&Tsucks.com. And you know what it is? It's all ex-employees that hate AT&T, and they go and they talk about how much AT&T sucks on this website. That's what they do all day. I don't know if they have jobs anymore, but that's what they do all day. Think about it. If you're a social engineer and you want to infiltrate AT&T, where are you going? I'm going to AT&Tsucks.com, because everyone there hates you. So I'm going to get all the information. They just quit, they got fired, whatever. They're going to tell me how your network was structured. They're going to tell me your password, the type of password you use, your email infrastructure. They're going to tell me any piece of information I need. AT&Tsucks.com. There's one, VerizonSucks.com. I think, the First Amendment in America makes it you can have anythingsucks.com. So, I'm sure there'll be more of them popping up as time goes on. The other part is we also, and especially I think this is more of a male problem as opposed to female, but it's not that it doesn't exist with females, but as far as guys go, we always want to appear well informed. Like the 3 scariest words to us are not I love you, it's I don't know. Ooh, that's even more scary, because if someone asks us a question and I have to admit I don't know, I may look dumb or I may look uninformed, and that will really hurt my big fat ego. So we have a problem saying that, so that the people, social engineers know that. And they'll use that against us. They'll use that by flattering us. I just heard a wonderful story from a guy here who was at a party at a RSA in San Diego, and he wanted to get into a party, and he gave his badge to a buddy, and the buddy, he was going back into the door, and the guard says, hey, where's your badge? Now, he couldn't say, I just gave it to my buddy to get in. And the guy stopped him, and he says, you're trying to cheat. And he goes, no, I'm not cheating. This is a social engineering test, and you passed. You passed the social engineering test. And then he's given them to flatter the guy. Tell him, you know what, I've been doing this all night. You're the only one who caught me. You're the best. And the guy's like, yeah, I am. Go right in. That's great. And he let him back in the party. What the heck? How simple is that? It's unbelievable that actually works. But that's how simple it is, because people want to appear like they're the most knowledgeable. And that's what happened with that guy. He wanted to appear very knowledgeable. So when people question us and it seems to be going the wrong direction, don't be afraid to say, I don't know, or I need to talk to my manager, or that information is something I can't release. Any one of those things will work. It may hurt our ego a little bit, but it saves our company. So it's a very, very valid piece of information. Also, appreciation. Man, we all want to feel appreciated. That's just a human thing. We want to feel needed. We want to feel important. We want to feel valued. And social engineers know that. That story about what happened with the tsunami in Japan and the relief group that was set up, they validated, right? The fact that the woman on the phone lost the same relative that I lost. We have a bond. There's an appreciation between us now. These things are close. They're things that are unbreakable. Even among strangers, we meet and that bond is there. Think about it. We're all here in this because we all have one common goal, and that's security. Right? This brings us together, people we never meet, we may never talk to again until next Hack in Paris. But this is the way that we all bonded. Well, people do that on the phone. They build these relationships that make you so close you're willing to give them any piece of information. Well, we have to try to discourage hackers from using this type of method by, if people request more information or they request detailed information about us, to try to set up private meetings. A lot of times hackers, social engineers, they're not going to go that far. So, just even taking it to that level to see if they're serious. Oh, I don't have a problem with that. You want to set up a time to come in, or I can get my managers together and we can have a phone conference. A lot of times they won't fall for that. So we, open people. Another big danger is the same kind of principle with elicitation. A lot of times we are way open, and this really falls into social media, which we'll talk about very briefly at the end. But the more open we are when it comes to the things that we do in daily life, the easier it is for an attacker to then infiltrate our companies. Passwords and access, I won't bore you. All you guys are technical here, but I just want to, how many of us here have used or know all about rainbow tables? Okay, good. A good majority of you. So you're gonna really understand this clearly. Let me just. There was some research done. Okay, there was some, and that did not work. There was some research done by a guy named Troy Hunt. Okay, so let me just, this was right after the Sony breach. So after Sony was breached, Anonymous put all the passwords online, the databases were downloaded, and then they were able to take the passwords and kind of run some scenarios on them and see what kind of information was good or bad about them. So let's just scroll down to some of the important parts. Length of password. Okay, so this is the length of the password. So the average length was somewhere between 6 and 8 characters. 6 and 8 characters. That was the average length of the password. That's kind of scary, don't you think? That's kind of scary. One guy, like one person, had a 14-character password, and that's because he fell asleep and his head hit the keyboard or something, I don't know, but it was like this one person and the whole database had a strong password. It's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Character types. So the majority of almost 20,000 that were tested had only one character type, which meant only alpha, only numeric, only uppercase, or only lowercase, but only one. They only chose one, and I didn't want to have to hit the shift key, so I'm only going to use one character because in case my left hand gets cut off, I want to be able to type it with one hand, or whatever their thinking was. Now, there was some more secure people. Look at these. Wow, I mean, these had almost 2, and of course that same one guy, he had like 4, the same one guy had hit the keyboard, hit the numbers by mistake, one guy there. Yeah, this is a beautiful one. So 45% had lowercase only. 45% lowercase only. Yikes. Alphanumeric characters, 99% contains no alphanumeric characters. 99% of the passwords that were tested. And that's just ridiculous. And for the grand finale, password reuse. This is my favorite. 92% of the people that were tested reused their password on other websites. 92%. And the phones are speaking French to me. So here's another one. We won't be able to go through all of this because of timing, but there was this hacker, his nickname was Tanyu, out of Peru. There was a very popular social media website that went offline because they forgot to renew their website. They forgot to pay up for the year. And Tanyu happened to notice this. So what he did is he bought the domain real quick and he just mirrored the site. And instead of having people get to their social media stuff because he didn't have their databases, he just logged their usernames and passwords. A really interesting character. And what he did, he didn't do anything malicious with it. That was the best part. He just released this to show people the stupidity. So we have 734,000 people logged into this website that he set up, just so we understand the base. This is not like 10 people. This is almost 1 million people that were tested here. The breakdown, 6,100 females, about 23,980 males used passwords that were their first name. So, Chris. That's secure, right? That's secure. That's ridiculous. How about this? Passwords were their first name and last name. 535 females, 3,441 males. That's more secure. Or how about this? Passwords that were like their zip code, so their postal code, their post office code. Only 1,128 people, because that's numbers that's harder to remember. And you might move. So yeah, I won't say this because this is a professional conference, but look at this. What? So we're 1,603 users made that their password? I don't get it. Like, I'm mad at this site. F you, But look, this is promising now. Come on, guys, this is promising. Love had double the number. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that sweet? That's sweet, isn't it? Maybe they're all from France, the city of love, right? Let's see. Here's some interesting ones. Okay. So now this is where we get scared. Out of the 773, I have 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. 773,000. We had 228,000 males had a 6-character password. So if we look here, with these huge numbers, we're seeing 6 again, 8, maybe 9 characters. We had 36,000 with 10 characters. There was one guy who fell asleep and had a 22-character password. One guy out of 734,000 people had a password that probably wouldn't be hacked, but it probably was all alphanumeric. It was like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then he just forgot with the last 2 letters and moved on. Now, you want to see how secure some of these passwords were? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 17,000 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't just say that enough. Password, because everyone knows that is a really good one for 4,500 people. That's a great one. And then really secure was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That was more secure because it was 9 characters. I guess things like things like 7 computer, that was pretty popular. There's some of these censored because it was the name of a company. Just numbers. People went across the keyboard. These things are what's popular. Now, why is this so important? If those of you are familiar with rainbow tables, so I have here a hash, an LM hash. From a 14-character, very complex password. And who's counting? That was what, maybe 7 seconds? That's the password. 14 characters. So rainbow tables make it possible for anything 14 characters and under, right? Because it's LM, it's insecure, because we won't get into it. You'll get me mad. Is anyone here from Microsoft? I'm really sorry if you are, but the geniuses at Microsoft decided that 14 characters is too long. I need Windows to appear faster, so I'm going to make 14 characters really 7. Let's cut it in half and make 2 7-character passwords. And then, when you shove it into a rainbow table, that just makes it 10 seconds or less. 6 seconds usually is what it takes. And no matter the complexity of the password, if it's 14 characters or under, you're done. Now, I used to say 14 characters and over, especially if you salt it, is good, but I was just at a FBI InfraGard meeting in Virginia about 3 weeks ago, and there was a group there that was able to crack a 10-character salted NTLM password in 4 hours. So we're screwed. That's basically the gist of what I just said. We don't have time to get through all of that because of being so close. Okay, so that's the hash that we just used. And social media, I can't really say enough about this. I could probably spend a whole hour just talking about social media. I cannot tell you how often I'm doing social engineering pen tests for companies, and this is the #1 reason we get in. Just a quick story. We had a very large organization that we were working with, and really difficult to get past the perimeter of anything from the outside in. But from the inside out, there was a lot of openness. So we figured that's the route we got to go. There's a guy there who's running his own RC car racing club using his corporate email address. So, Chris at corporate.com, on his Facebook page, he says, I'm an RC racing enthusiast, and the weekends I run this club. The company didn't care. It wasn't against their corporate policies. They were able to do that because it was just a little side company. It wasn't doing what they do, so it was fine. But it was tied to his corporate email account. So all we did, knowing that they still used, IE6, they still use IE6, yeah, I know, someone just gagged, believe me. We just sent them an email saying, hey, I got this great RC car for my birthday. It's my first one. I set up a little web page with some pictures on it. Can you take a look at it and tell me if you can teach me how to drive this thing? I'd love to learn. Guy clicks the link, game over. Done. Company infiltrated. Why? Because they were allowing him to use his corporate email address to mix business and pleasure. Social media, as much as we use it, we need it to run business nowadays. It can be a big danger if there's no policies in place between those two things. I can go on forever about that because it's a pet peeve of mine, but I wanted to leave at least 2-3 minutes if there's any questions at all about social engineering or anything. No? One? Yes, sir.
How many users log to your website social engineering? Because it would be interesting how many people are actually using it, like the toolkits and stuff.
Oh yeah, to the social-engineer.org site. That's a good question. Analytics is probably, I haven't checked in like a couple months, but the last time I checked, I think we're somewhere like around 55 to 75,000 hits a month. So it's not huge, but it's not small. It's an interesting mix, I think, because the podcast gets maybe about 50,000 downloads a month. So I think a lot of people may be coming just to get the podcast, and once they see the framework once or twice, because we don't update it very often, they come back to get the newsletter, the podcast, or the blog. Those are the 3 main sections that are hit because those are updated all the time. We have a newsletter that comes out once a month, and then the podcast, which is once a month, and then the blog, which is once every couple weeks. So, I'm sorry, I should have repeated the question. He asked how many people come to the social-engineer.org website and use the information there. And actually, we had from any of you who know Brad Smith, we had a good friend in the industry who had a stroke giving a speech, and he was really sick, and we set up a donation page for him because he has no health insurance. We were trying to help him get some money back for him and his wife because he was stuck in Miami literally for like 5 months. And we set up a donation page, and I can't tell you, the first 3 days was like 10,000 emails. Is this some kind of SE trick? Are you trying to see if we're all dumb enough to click on the link and give you money? I'm like, man, maybe this was a bad idea to put it on SE.org, So we had to make an announcement, and the charity made an announcement that it was a real thing and it wasn't a trick or a scam. So that is a valid question. Any other questions? Yes, sir.